Welcome back to another episode of Real Chumps. We're chatting about movies feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Danny.
This week, we did continue our month-long discussion of classic films we've never seen before with the 1973 film The Sting, directed by George Roy Hill, written by David S. Ward, starring Paul Newman, Robert Redford, Robert Shaw, and many more.
In this episode, we ponder why The Sting isn't talked about more, how this movie masters tension, and we share our thoughts on why these classic films endure the test of time. But before we roll that intro, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.
Join in on that conversation by heading to YouTube and subscribing to our channel, where we do a lot more stuff, and you can engage with us and tell us your thoughts and feelings on the movies we talk about. With that being said,
let's roll that intro.
Before we get into this movie, as always, we start with a question. And today, how many three-piece suits do you own?
Three-piece suits. Currently, I own none. I used to own one.
I do not own one. And can I just tell you, one, Robert Redford has always made a three-piece suit look amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
this is not his first foray. He rocked the three-piece suit in Winter Soldier.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's also rocked the three-piece suit, or at least I'm pretty sure it was a three-piece suit, maybe not because he was a journalist at the time. But in All the President's Men.
Oh, but dude, you're forgetting the most iconic of them all. In
is it
The Great Gatsby?
The Great Gatsby. Robert, I literally wrote in my, let's see what I say. Robert makes me want to wear a suit. He also reminds me that three-piece suit is a thing every man should own. And I do not own one, and it made me really, my mom recently got married, and I went to a suit place, and I found a great jacket, but the pants, they couldn't get the pants to fit my size.
Okay.
Because I'm too fluffy. And but the thing is, like, wearing a three-piece suit, I would look great. As a bigger dude, wearing a three-piece suit is actually, like a suit in general, is actually really good for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Helps it just because the way that you should cut, you can set your pant size. And honestly, a fitted suit specifically. Now, I wanted to ask this question because you worked as a suit salesman. Am I wrong?
Yes, that is right. Yeah, I did. I worked as a suit salesman for like 2.5, almost 3 years. And prior to that, I worked like at a tuxedo rental shop too.
Oh, dang.
So, yeah.
Do you feel that the art of a suit, like a actually good suit, is lost in America?
A bit, yeah. Yes. I think too often people think wearing a suit is for a funeral or or for like church, however often you go, whatever that may be, right? But like I remember a couple of years ago, my wife and I got season tickets to like the orchestra, the Salt Lake City Symphonic Orchestra.
Was it the Utah Symphony?
Or the Utah Symphony. There we go. That one. Which was a great deal, by the way. Like,
yeah, wait, is this the one that they when they moved over to UVU?
No. When it's still in Salt Lake City.
Oh, still in Salt Lake City.
Yeah. This was several years ago. We had the season tickets, and I was the guy that like wore a suit to it. Like, we're going to go see the symphony, and I don't know if it's just because like I was in band and orchestra,
and just like that's kind of like what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. But like a lot of people just go like business casual.
Yeah.
Like not t-shirts, but like a lot of business casual. But yes, to your point, I do think it's lost in a couple of ways. One, in the lack of wearing it. Second, in how, because there was a time 12, 13 years ago where I also worked, I think I told you, I worked as a fashion consultant.
Oh, yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah.
And my ideal customer profile was women who had married guys that didn't know how to dress and had just like gotten a job, had just graduated college, and were heading to like a big financial firm.
They got a man in finance.
And yeah. And so they would hire me to like consult for them. Like, how should I dress? They didn't know how to dress. And like now they have to wear like business casual or dress up a bit more. And that's how I'd get hired. But like these guys had suits that like would just stick out way too much and just too big. And it's just, or there's always the classic, there's always the classic guy who's like, oh, but I got this one like at H&M or at Express. And it's like, that's great. But like, look at the stitching job, like how it crumbles on the shoulders or in the back. Like, yes, you got a great deal and you quote unquote, it looks good, but like it's not good quality and like it crumbles. And like once you point out the little issues with the stitching job, then you're like, oh, now I can't unsee it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lost art.
To this day, I think I have yet to get another suit. Partly because I want to spend the actual money for a good 3-piece suit that I get that's actually tailored, because I know that it actually getting that tailored means that when you put it on, you feel great.
Yeah.
And I hate when I put on a suit jacket that even like I found one that was pretty good. It fits fine. They did a little bit of tailoring, but it's still mass tailored, so they only let out like the back or
sure
XYZ, right? And I mean watching this film, I'm just reminded how much like I like wearing. I like the idea of wearing a white shirt and tie, or at least like a vest. I was gonna bring my bowler hat and bust it out, but I left it. But like the thing is, like that style, like I mean, there's a whole subgenre on social media of people, men, stylizing, but that is something that is lost. I mean, Adam Missouri, who is the head of Instagram, I think is a perfect example of like what it means. Like he's a man he knows what fashion is. He wears rings and necklaces. And I think he has a huge impact. He had a huge impact on Mark Zuckerberg, who was very much like, not there, right? And like fashion doesn't have to be I think ultimately like fashion doesn't have to be a deciding factor for you. But I do think that there's something about like wearing the suit and what that does to you, like your confidence.
Definitely. But I will say though, like I don't enjoy wearing suits.
That's okay if you don't.
Like I did it for like 6-7 years of my life, for work and whatever. But it's just like I don't, and like especially in this movie or in other movies we've seen where they're running around, and I'm just like, oh, I would just like take it off and like I don't care if I'm running naked. Like I'm trying to like ditch out the cops or whatever. I'm not one to. There was a point though I had, because I would get such heavy discounts working. I had 12 sets of suits.
Nice.
And they were great, man.
Yeah.
They were stylish. I don't fit in any of them though.
I know. It's kind of what happens. Anyway, it's great stuff, man. I am pumped to be talking about this movie. So let me give you the breakdown. The Sting is the grifter movie. The grifter movie of all grifter movies. A young grifter who gets derailed after a job impacts his life, and takes the shot at taking the big con, and finds out if he's up to snuff. That's my synopsis.
Okay, it's a good synopsis. Here's mine. A young grifter, Hooker, played by Robert Redford, has to now pull the ultimate con and be led by a seasoned grifter and con artist played by Paul Newman, in order to exact revenge on an event that took earlier in the movie. Okay, The Sting, dude. So we are finishing up our month-long viewing of classics we've never seen with The Sting. This is one of the ones that I suggested, and people voted for, at least on mine, they voted for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and this two movies directed by George Roy Hill, starring both Paul Newman and Robert Redford. Unique choice from the listeners. Thank you again for voting. But this is where we're at, and let me tell you, I absolutely love this movie so much.
This movie is phenomenal.
And I watched it. I went back and watched it again.
I really, really, really wanted to watch it again. Because I had to watch this in between a couple of different things. And it was rough to get back into every single time. But like,
it is great. And I think like the more I think about it, the more I read about the movie, I'm appreciating it even more. I mean, let's set the stage. It's 1973.
Yep.
Okay. This is 4 years after the three of them had done Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Correct.
They team up again to do this movie written by David Ward. David Ward was fairly young at this point, and it's interesting because it's early 1970s, and so you have a lot of new film students that are graduating. They're coming into the scene. Soon we'll have the likes of Steven Spielberg, right? Well, I mean, he's already been on the scene, but he's about to get his big hits. And so, like, you have this new wave of film students that are bringing great ideas and unique storytelling that we hadn't quite seen in the decades prior. But the issue is that a lot of studios aren't wanting to put their money into these new students, these new grads, whatever it is. And so this movie is produced by two, I think this, I'm trying to remember the production.
The producers, you're saying?
Yeah, so Julia Phillips and Michael Phillips kind of were the lead producers on this. And Julia Phillips later wrote a memoir, and just a challenge that they were seeing at this early stage in cinema, in Hollywood. I think she actually became the first female producer from this movie to win and be nominated.
Yeah,
right. So it's a new era of Hollywood we're coming into, and we talked a lot about that in 1969 Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. But what's really unique also is America, 1973, right? I think you had just had Roe v. Wade come through. I believe this movie came out, and then like a couple weeks later, Nixon came out as a crook, right? We're still like slowly getting out of Vietnam, but it's still happening. So like, it is just a weird, chaotic, interesting time in America. And then you have this movie that comes out, which gets nominated for 10 Oscars.
One Best Picture.
Wins 7 of these 10. Yep. This is Robert Redford's only nomination in acting that he ever gets. Doesn't win it, but it's his only nomination. But this movie like steals it with 7 wins. And like you said, 1 Best Director. It beat The Exorcist that year. Which we can talk a little bit about that. But this is the stage that we're in America, in cinema, in Hollywood. And this movie, I wish I would have seen this like back then.
Yeah.
But I love it now, and I just see the influences it had on one of my favorites, right? Obviously, that being Ocean's 11. But even like just the approach of heist movies. We did a whole month of heist movies.
Yeah.
Cons, and I just absolutely love this movie.
I wrote, this movie's one I'll have to rewatch, and every single time I watch will get better and better. And it's due to the fact that like this movie, this is a 2 hour and 2 hour 10 minutes.
Yeah, a little over 2 hours. Yeah,
and it felt really, at the very beginning, I felt like it was dragging. And again, I was watching this in between a couple of things, and I think that was my biggest issue. And I think that if I was gonna like rewatch, I really wanted to rewatch it again because I wanted to give it like a full 2 hours dedicated attention. But the thing is that this film, this might be up in the like this might be a perfect film.
Really?
Okay. I'm not saying it is. I'm thinking. I just think that as I watch this more and more, it could end up being in the top contenders for a perfect film. It's not a 3-act structure. It's an untraditional structure. It's broken up into several chunks with title cards
which are great. Great, but it's 3 title cards. After we have the introduction, so you have you have the players, the tail, and the sting.
I thought there was one more.
Was there one more?
I thought there was one more.
I'll have to look at it. Okay,
we can look at it, but I was pretty sure that there was one more. But in any case, like this is not necessarily a full. I mean, you could break it down to however you want to break it, but I think that the character development. I think that this movie does a there's so many things really, really, really well, and I just can't. I'm just pumped that I will say this. I know this is our first time watching it.
Yeah. You hadn't seen this before, right?
I hadn't seen all of it. Okay. I actually, the first act or the first 2 acts, or the first 2 little things, I think I actually had seen. It was on TV or something else, or I don't remember. The opening scene with Robert Redford and Robert Earl Jones.
Oh yeah. R.I.P. to
James Earl Jones,
his son, Robert Earl Jones' son.
Yep. He'll be missed.
Yeah, it's a shame.
But he'll go. He's a legend, so he's gonna live on forever.
Yeah.
In any case, Robert Earl Jones as Luther Coleman in the opening scene, stiffing the guy was just a great opening intro to the grifter and the con. I want to get this out of the way right now. This is going to be... I think Robert Redford was the movie runner before Tom Cruise was the movie runner. I don't know if you caught... Did you think of this?
He runs a lot in this movie,
He runs a lot in this movie, and all I could think was did Tom Cruise saw that and was like...
maybe I can make a career out of this.
Can I make this my iconic thing? Because he runs a lot, and every single time I'm like, who does it better?
Who does it better? It's interesting you say that because Robert Redford went on record many times saying how he just felt his character wasn't doing a lot. He was there to give exposition, to introduce the next part of the story and what he's doing, like go answer the phone, or I'm going to send you to this guy, or you're going to go do that, right? And he just felt like his character wasn't given a lot of growth in character structure. And he complained to George Roy Hill, I'm just doing a lot of running. I don't like this. I'm doing a lot of running and explaining things to people. That it became a joke that at the end of the movie, they actually gave him a Roadrunner statue, like the little Roadrunner, because he was running a lot. So it's funny that you bring that up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you agree with his feelings?
I don't, because I feel like a lot of the movie, especially that first act, right? As we see him with Luther, as we understand like his motivations and who he is as an individual, not just as an individual, but also as a grifter. I like that. And we continue to see that growth throughout the movie. We see how he engages with others. We see his growth as a con artist to take on Lonigan.
Yeah.
And how he plays that character. This movie is all about what's the word I'm looking for? Not appearances, but their way of acting in front of others. It's a movie about acting and as
perception.
Maybe perception, performances. I think that's what it is, right? They're each doing a performance as an actor, but the character doing their own performance, and we see that confidence. In my opinion, we see that confidence in Hooker being able to grow into this position and really own what he's doing and why he's doing it, right? To get that revenge on Lonigan for what he did to Coleman. So no, I don't agree. I think there is plenty of growth here on his character.
I agree. I think that on his character growth, I think he does have, it is well done throughout the film, and I feel I'm rewarded with where we end with Hooker's character. I do feel at times that I feel Redford's perhaps disheartening feeling that he isn't as involved as he would like to be in different scenes and in different moments and maybe not feeling like he's providing enough of what he wants. But I think when you look at the entirety of the film, it's there.
Yeah, it's there.
So I think for what Hooker's character is, I think it's great. Also, I think Robert Redford, if he would never be James Bond, but he'd be a great Bond.
Robert Redford?
Yeah.
Nah.
You don't think he'd have been a great Bond?
Nah.
Dude. I think...
Nah, dude. So 1973, was Sean Connery still?
Yeah.
I think so, right?
No. He would never... I mean, he couldn't be a...
No, but like, if we stand him up against the men of his time... Nah, dude. Nah. I don't see it.
No
way. Could he have been a good Ethan Hunt?
Yeah, he would have been.
Yeah, he would have been a good Ethan Hunt.
He'd have been good.
Especially with that running. He's got the running down.
He never went on to do a movie with any running in it ever again.
I mean, he did the Spy Games, which we talked about a little bit last time, right? With Brad Pitt. So, I want to continue diving a little bit on these characters.
We have Johnny Hooker, who is teamed up with Luther Coleman, his small band of grifters in this small town in New York. Chicago. Yes.
Yeah.
Chicago. And he has been doing little cons here and there, and ends up landing this big one, right? Gets put on, with Coleman saying, look, you should try the big one. And I should give you my buddy's name for Henry Gondorf and his crew and do something big, right? We got Robert Shaw's Doyle Lonigan, who is the mob boss.
And it's just incredible. I mean, Robert Shaw just steals like the scene every time he's on screen. Like, he is this menacing villain. He carries this presence about him. His line deliveries.
I know. You got lucky once. That's not enough. Lucky hell. I can't do it every time. Then why don't you do it then? It's because it's better to do it all at once. Oh, it's so great. That little dialogue between the two after the first anyways.
Yeah, no, it's so good. And his delivery when he's talking, he's out at the golf course. Oh, right? Like let's talk about Lonigan. Like, he's out on the golf course and his lackey comes up to him and is like, why are we putting so many resources into like finding Hooker, right? And he's like, you see that guy over there? Like, I've known him since we've known each other since we were 6. We've grown up. Like, this is what I do. If he were to ever find out that someone took any money from me, I would have to kill him. Like, he's so worried about appearances. No, this is a guy who has a limp, right?
Yeah.
But he's so focused on appearances and who he is in this scene within mobs, right? And the power that he holds. That, yeah, for him, it's only, $11,000?
Yeah.
That got taken away, even though all of his other subsidiary mob affiliations are bringing in 25,000 every week. This is the weakest, but he has to make a point. He has to make a stand and say, no one can get away with this, even if it's just 11,000.
Yeah, no one can cross me.
Yeah.
That was the thing about Lonigan. I felt like Robert Shaw's portrayal of Lonigan was fierce. And I think part of it is that he was a man of, we don't see this, but we know we get those little moments. I think the golf course is a perfect experience. The poker game.
The poker game, dude.
But he's a man of, he's a two-face.
Yeah.
He's the two-face of, because he has one perception for what society sees him, but he has this hidden side that he runs that is the dark underbelly of so many things that people hear, but they don't talk in whispers, right? Oh, Lonigan got his money or blah, blah, blah. That in so much that he hides the fact that he's from five borough, no, some a specific city, right? And to me, like throughout all of this, his involvement as they start to begin to do the con on him is just, it is masterfully written, performed. I find that it's every single time I'm always waiting for him to just call him out and kill Hooker.
Like you can tell at any point, like he's just gonna lose it. Either on Paul Newman's character when he's playing him at the poker game, like he keeps calling him by a different name, right? Yeah. Which is so great. It's so fun, and you can tell it irks Lonigan so much, right? At any point he could just off with this guy. He could do that. He has a power, and he could get away with it. I wrote something in my notes like the revenge is not violent, but there is a serious risk of violence in here.
It's a perfect way of saying it.
Like Coleman was killed, and you see how much that means to Hooker, right? This is the guy that took him under his wing, taught him everything he knows, and he's retiring, and he's saying like, go to this other guy and learn from him, and for him to lose, and now it's a revenge. He could, and Hooker has that line of like, I don't know enough about killing to kill him, right? That's why I want to do this. It's a revenge story. It's personal, but the stakes are high. Like there is a serious risk of violence here, and that's delivered because of Robert Shaw's performance as Lonigan.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, the conversation between Hooker and Gondorf, and him be like, "Hey, why didn't you tell me?" It was Lieutenant Snyder who's after him.
Yeah.
But in the situations like what's they have this heart to heart moment of like, "Hey, I'm dealing with some stuff." He doesn't divulge everything, but they have between those two characters, they have this moment of realizing that, Gondorf wondering if it's worth pursuing something more, because he understands the big con. He understands the risks that are involved. Hooker, I think, he's caught up in the revenge, so he may not fully see it. Yeah. I think he does, we get to see him as he develops and he starts to wonder at different moments, which I think is really done really well. But yeah, I don't know.
It's great. I think, and again, I might go back and forth between this and Ocean's 11, right? But like when the con is personal, you're not doing it just for the money.
Yeah.
The stakes become higher, right?
Yeah.
And we see that, going back to Ocean's 11 with Danny Ocean, like he's trying to win back Tess.
Yeah.
Right? And Benedict and Shaw, like, so much similarities. Benedict brings this menacing presence to him, even though he like shows no emotion. He's hardly he's just very menacing, and we see that here with Shaw. But like once the con, if you're able to write a personal motivation, to these cons, one, the stakes are higher. Second, I buy into it.
I agree.
And into the characters, right? And I think I've said this before, and I said this during our heist month. Like, these are all criminals. What do you need to do as a screenwriter to make me care about them, to want to be on their side, right? And in these heist/con movies, if you are able to make it personal, that's how you hook the audience.
Right.
But it has to be legit. And in this case, this revenge becomes legit, and we can all relate to it.
Does Gondorf have a good enough motive for you? I mean, like, okay, so you shared a little bit about Redford's character. Like, where are you at with Paul Newman and him playing Henry Gondorff?
Yeah, I think what I like about, excuse me, about Paul Newman's character is he's just cool.
He's suave.
Like, and you can say this about this whole movie. Like, it's a cool movie. Like, how do you define cool? You can't define it. You just know it. You just see it, right? And he that's what he is here, right? He's been waiting for the right opportunity. He has this knowledge. He's become so good at what he does that he doesn't find a challenge anymore.
That was, that was the thing that I think I loved the most. Mm-hmm. It's the thing that I actually when we look at Oceans, Danny Ocean they've made something of themselves, to a degree, right? They're pulling people back in for this con, and like we said, it's something personal. But this one, I actually do think that Gondorff. This is something that is personal. It's something that it's he's wanted to have. He got to a point where it was life is whatever.
Yeah,
that he just was fine living in a room and helping out and fixing things and with the carousel and helping out. What's her name? Billy, and in her with her business and just coasting because he felt like he'd done it all, and how much he wasn't living.
Yeah. And I think that's what I love about this relationship between Gondorff and Hooker. In comparison to Danny Ocean and Rusty, Brad Pitt's character in Ocean's 11, right? I do see Rusty and Danny as equals.
Yeah.
Whereas here you have this mentor-student relationship, but also a reason for Gondorff to come back into the game or to really commit to it, right? And I think he pulls in resources, he brings in people, right? Which that whole scene of gathering the team is so fun.
Love this about this movie, bro. The note from the signal.
Flick. Yeah.
I wrote what did I put? I put the fact that they pulled together for the horse race scam, right? They pulled together not only the amount of set, we get a little bit of this with Oceans, and in many of the our heist film movies we watched, they often do stuff, but it's on such a small scale.
Yeah.
This is a straight up company, right? A whole team, a slew of production, from set design to the amount of actors that they bring in to make the con, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole theater production.
Yeah. To having to pivot, right? When Lonigan says, I want to meet your guy down at Western Union.
Yes.
Right? It's that it adds, again, as a screenplay tactic, you add more conflict and suspense. And you need that in these con movies, in these heist movies. I go ahead.
I think the only other thing I had for this situation is I kind of wish more movies did this. I kind of wish more, and I'm trying to think of I think maybe the only person that to a degree that kind of, it's not heist, but it's John Wick does this, I think, decently. Not that they're designing something, but that when the people are involved, there's a mass amount of these individuals, right? We think of the hobo, the pigeon, who's over all the hobos that are there.
Oh, Lawrence Fishburne's character.
I can't remember
what is he?
Something King. Anyways, the amount of people that are unseen or whatever, right? This idea that everyone there isn't who they are, right?
Yeah.
Or the scene when Wick is at the end of the first one and he's excommunicado and everyone stops and they all walk away. Yeah. That is something that I would love to see in more heist movies. This idea that no, we have a huge people that are part of this crew and there's this level of there. And that's something I get with the fact that Gondorff has lived this life, and we get, it's high stakes people in Oceans, but this idea that like people are in it to like stick it to a person and get a little bit of a cut.
Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful world building.
Yeah,
you know, and it makes it even more believable. And that's one of the issues that I had with Ocean's 8.
Oh yeah, I agreed.
Is that sense of like world building wasn't there. There wasn't. It didn't feel like there was. And I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but like it didn't feel like there was that, not necessarily chemistry, but that history,
or
between
even
the characters.
I mean, I think there's a little bit of that. I think the bigger thing is like there wasn't enough maybe time.
Yeah.
Or what's the like a sleight of hand in the film.
Yes.
This film does a phenomenal job at misdirection in having us focus on a thing and a storyline that we don't know what else is happening. And as the movie progresses, storylines come into play and they take, I think from the last half to the end of the movie, I was thoroughly pleased with the amount of interesting loops that they or like story arcs that they open, and we don't get closed until like literally the last like 15 minutes of the film.
Let's talk about the misdirects.
Okay, let's do it.
Did they work for you? Did you fall for them?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I fell for almost all of them. Maybe a couple. I'm trying to think. Like, let's see. We've got the obvious. I mean, obviously, we have the FBI's.
Yeah.
Which, dude, don't crack wise with me, Flatfoot. I freaking love that line. So the FBI's, the black hands, or black gloved assassin guy.
What's the name? I've got it written down. Salino.
Wait, no. That was the girl's name, wasn't it?
Yeah, but the Salino was the hired.
No, there's the hired
assassin.
That's the hired assassin, but we have.
And it turns out to be the girl.
Yes. But the black glove guy is just the black glove guy.
No, but remember, Salino kills. Hooker is at the diner with
yes
with the girl, right?
Yeah.
Who now is Salino, right?
Yeah.
And so he runs off.
Yeah.
And then the guy that was chasing Hooker turns around and is like, Salino, no. I didn't know, and just shoots him.
That's right.
But yeah,
so good.
That was done so good.
So good. It got me good. It got me good. It was phenomenal. So there's that. We have what else we got?
We had I think those are kind of the big ones.
Those are the big ones. I mean, there's a couple other ones. I would say I mean, we could do the Hooker. I guess that's still part of the FBI. The Hooker's like backstabbing.
Or the shooting of each other.
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
Did the shooting work for you?
It did.
Yeah.
Did it for you?
I think I was just like feeling so much. I was like, did he not? Oh, I think it got me. The idea that, and especially going back and rewatching it, the idea where, and I don't think it's necessarily a misdirect from the director to show us like, because there's those times where Hooker, like he looks wearied, he looks stressed, and what's his face?
Lonigan?
No, Gondorf is like asking like, what's wrong? Like what's going on? And he tells him like, no, like I'm a little bit worried about, or no, I'm fine, or
because he's
worried about the heist.
It always happened after Snyder shows up.
Yeah, but the first time you watch it, you're thinking like, oh no, he's holding back information, which as we later find out, he wasn't. Right? He was telling him. We didn't see that.
Yeah.
But he generally, going back and watching it the second time, I catch those moments like, no, he really is. And that's why the character growth works for me, because those moments that he is concerned, we the first time think he's hiding information from Gondor.
Okay.
But now the second time, or going back and watching it, no, he actually is a little bit worried about if the heist is gonna work, or if they're gonna be able to pull it off, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, that's why, again, going back to that comment about like character growth, I see that. But yeah, it got me every time. And it's great because the movie does such a wonderful job during the poker scene in the train. They show us the misdirect that he's going to do.
Oh yeah. Okay. The poker scene. Okay. So there's a couple of things. One, we have several cons that happen. Not once do we get the classic. Like, I want to know when the like classic trope of like. I guess this is not a heist movie. This is just a con movie. So everything is about the misdirect / the reveal.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe that's the clarification. So I'm not going to talk about that.
Okay.
I was like, anyways, the poker scene is legendary. I feel it's just so the tension that they build with that one poker scene, I think sets the level of tone and why we feel the amount of intense, is everything going to work for the rest of the movie.
Yes. You have Paul, you have Gondorf, right, who is confident. He does his little, sleight of hands.
So good.
And we'll talk about the editing in that, right? Because they hired a hand double to do all the card tricks. But there was a time, for a moment there, I was like, was that Paul Newman doing that? It's a really well cut and edited 15 seconds there. But he has this confidence about him. Like, he's like, I can do it. He messes up and he's like, in what's his face? Hooker calls him out on. He's like, you just worry about your part, kid. Right? And like, he goes and as soon as he swing opens that door.
Oh, dude, he stumbles in.
He stumbles in.
Oh, dude.
It is game on. This performance of Gondorf as I can't even remember what character he's playing, but like, he just delivers it. To your point, the tension that's built by calling him the wrong names, by us knowing that he's going to cheat, right?
Yeah.
And that what's his face also cheats. Lonigan also cheats. So we, as an audience, are expecting there to be some kind of misdirect, and they show us the misdirect, right? Or bust, but like, it's the delivery of how we get to that point, from the dialogue, from the performance of Paul Newman as this drunk individual showing up and just winning, and then you have members of the table that are like packing it up and are like, nah, I'm losing, and he just keeps baiting him.
Oh, I know.
You're building this tension. Well, you're creating this conflict, and I am bought in, and I am worried if something goes bad. Oh shoot. And this is something very unique about this movie in comparison to, for example, going back to Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11, I know they're going to pull off the heist. It's about how they do it.
Correct.
Whereas this movie, are they going to pull it off? Are they going to pull off the con? The whole time, I am at the edge of my seat wondering if they're going to do it.
And I think it's hard. We keep comparing to Ocean's. I don't know if Ocean's 11, the elements that we find in Ocean's 11, is the reason why I think we it's because I think the character, the motivation for why this is happening is so personal.
Yes,
that it reminds us of Ocean. But like, this is a con movie,
and there's conning that happens throughout Ocean's 11.
Yeah. Of course, there's con, stuff like that. But like at the core of this, it's about. I think of there's that one con movie where there's two females. Oh, I can't remember. Anyways, in any case, this movie is very different. It's just like we thinking about like that. But the fact that this one moment in the scene of the poker, I think the fact that he makes him wait alone, that alone puts literally a full baked cake.
Yeah.
Already, like, it's been frosted, and yet they come in and they're building a bigger cake to place on top of this other cake that they've already built of tension. And it is phenomenal. All of it that you shared, right, is it truly makes it. And then what I think what solidified is the fact that, like, you get Hooker taken, at the end, or like with at the end, all of this, and right now I'm like,
at the end,
after the train situation, Hooker gets taken by Lonigan.
yeah, he doesn't have the money, right?
Correct.
So he gets handpicked
Yep.
by Billy, and so then he's gonna pay him. He doesn't have the money, so then he's like, all right, I'm gonna send one of my guys to collect the money at your little room. So he sends Hooker there, quote unquote, confesses, oh yeah, no, he cheats. Why are you telling me this?
Yeah, and then I have the whole thing, and so they start the con, right?
They start the con,
which I think is great. But every single time Hooker shows up with Lonigan, from that point on, it's this fine line.
Yeah,
and it's because of that initial thing, and that thread is what makes this movie, I think, truly great.
Yeah,
it's the other aspect of this is that we talk about this a lot. We talk all the time. Is that this movie has the pause to have us feel.
Yes.
And it's just glorious.
I love that you mentioned that because either to feel the suspense, either to feel the comedy that's in there, either to feel like the stakes, the movie is really well paced for that. And it's much needed because the movie there's so much happening from a story element, right? Yeah,
there's a lot happening.
But it gives us those moments to breathe, those moments to feel. So, no, it's well-paced, well-edited, well-cut from that aspect. I'm going to jump a little bit into, like, the techniques of the filmmaking. But, like, what, for you, with your professional eye that you have, what did you notice about Hill's direction that made this film just stand out for you? Like, what techniques, what elements, what about the movie that he did or how he approached this movie made it stand out for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I have a full breakdown on that yet. I think I need to watch it again. I think if I was going to say anything, one, I like the big set pieces.
Yeah.
I think that the big set pieces, the back and forth between the whole cruise, the individual moments, and I think there's a phrase of like, you need to see the white of their eyes. There's a lot of times it's not like in Aliens or a couple other movies where like you're like right up on people.
Yeah.
But they get these frames and you can see the faces and their eyes are, they're fully in focus. Actually, there is one shot. There's one shot that the focus puller misfocused.
Okay.
But you don't know. It doesn't, if you're not like, if you don't know, it doesn't matter. Like the story's so good. This is actually, I didn't write it up, but I did think of this. I'm like, oh, they misfocus here. And I'm like, but it doesn't matter. No one's ever going to notice unless you're really looking at that stuff. But, because the story, it's in one of the moments when Lonigan comes in. I think it's the first time Lonigan comes in to make a bet. In any case, but yeah, I think for me, some of the moments are like being like coming in on the faces, not like directly, but like the not cutting to like people's moments of like, is this gonna work? Is it not gonna work? Right? The holding on like the cutting away to other people, the people who are the most tense, and cutting towards emotion or like focusing on people's emotion, body languages and aspects of that. I think is a big aspect on this thing. I think the other aspect is the grittiness outside of the con. The con feels clean almost in every situation.
Sure. When
they're not in that situation, it tends to be a little bit dark, like moodier lit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's just an emotional thing. That's something I I felt.
No, I like that. And I think you see that a lot, especially with Paul Newman's character, right? Yeah. Every time Hooker comes back after meeting up or having a run-in with Snyder, the camera really takes its time and focuses on Paul. Like he's like, what are you not telling me? Or what has you concerned and worried, right? And Paul Newman does such a great job at like just emoting just through his eyes.
Dude, yes, he was. But this is the thing I think that like I think the team just overall for this movie, like they're working, because Hill had worked with both these characters or these actors previously. Him knowing and wanting to be able to get these, because it's through Newman's eyes and Robert Redford's facial emotions.
Yeah,
like the two of them play off of each other, and it's just phenomenal. It's great. They don't if it's they. I'm trying to think of like again. I think I actually need to watch it another time to give me like a. I'm going. I mean, I'm probably. I think for the next little bit, I'll probably end up watching this once a month.
Yeah, I think I might too.
It's just one that I like. I don't like. It's not. It's just so good.
It's good. It's fun.
It's fun.
It really is. I kind of want to bring this into context. So this 1973, this wins the Oscar. 1972. Here, let's see how good your movie
my movie trivia
is. What wins in 1972?
No idea.
Someone's yelling at you right now,
dude. They should be.
They should be.
Listen, I am terrible.
What wins in 1974?
Is that Star Wars?
No,
I don't know.
1972, you have The Godfather.
Oh, freaking.
And in 74, 72, Godfather. 73, you have The Sting that wins best film. 74, Godfather Part 2. This movie gets sandwiched between the Godfathers.
Interesting.
And I also think that's maybe because I don't know, at least for me, and I would love to hear from listeners, but like for me, when I think of like classic Paul Newman and Robert Redford movie, it's always Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid that comes up to mind first versus The Sting. Even though I like The Sting so much more than Butch, which I loved Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah.
But I love this one even more. But there's something very unique, I think, that Hill brought to this, is that the original screenplay for this by Ward was very much like a 1930s mob crime like screenplay.
Yeah.
It was violent. It was rough. And Hill decided to make it a little bit lighter. And he was really inspired, you see, by like the movies of the 30s and the serials of the 30s, right? Even to the point I was reading that like he said something that he noticed from the old movies was that there was never really many extras in the old movies.
That was like I said when I meant that, like when it's not during the con, it's gritty and it's literally just Redford.
Yeah, and he, you know, as he Hill he was saying that as he did more research about that, it was just too expensive to hire like extras walking around. So he decided to approach it like that. He wanted to film this movie as if he had filmed it in the 1930s. From the tile cards, right, to like being out in, there's no one when Robert Redford's running, there's no one on the streets, rarely, right? Rarely. And so like I love this almost love letter to the 1930s, but making it very lighthearted, and not lighthearted, but stripping away the grittiness of the movie and adding these two iconic actors to really bring that lightheartedness. Yet you stick with a very threatening villain, right?
Yeah.
I think that's just a unique approach that he had by changing that script a lot and really sticking into like, how can we make this fun? And having it be a beautiful nod to those movies.
This movie definitely does not get talked about enough.
No. And that's, but again, going back to like, it gets sandwiched between, I mean, think of even like, what's another movie that takes place in the 30s? The Untouchables? No, I think that one's 1920s, right? With Al Capone. But it's the same. That's the Depression era mob movies, and like The Untouchables it's gritty. Yeah, it came out obviously decades later, but like that's a like if you were to think of like mob movies,
Yeah.
a lot of people go to that one, right? But it's not that. It could have been, but the movie chooses not to. The director and the team and cast choose not to make it like that. And I think that's what makes it so fun is that we give a special nod to these 1930 movies, how they're filmed, how they're shot, and then we give that nod by making it very light and fun.
I appreciated that this film, despite having Lonigan's gravitas and threatening level, because he is the mob boss.
Yeah,
he is the Godfather.
Yeah,
and for this, and I could totally see it being darker and more gritty and like, you know, more heads rolling or more people in
more bodies thrown in the river.
Yes, but I think it's just a perfect balance. It's not too funny,
right?
It's not campy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not grimy and gritty. It's just that it's like it's just a wonderful balance for what the film is, and I think the fact that, you know, his approach and his desires to try to accomplish it, I think he succeeds it perfectly. And that's why he wins Best Picture in 1973.
You haven't seen The Exorcist?
I have not. Have you?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I've seen a couple of scenes, but
The Exorcist, often regarded as just iconic horror movie.
Yeah.
It changed horror films. It's just interesting that this wins Best Picture, right?
Yeah.
Yet it's often, I don't want to say it's often forgotten, but like
I think it is forgotten.
But it is forgotten, right?
I don't like. That's the thing that I'm like. I keep coming back. I keep trying to think about. I finished the movie and all I could think about was like, how have I like not had anyone ever tell me about this movie? Like, not once did I ever get a feeling of, like, someone say, "Have you watched?" You know,
Yeah.
Hey, you like? You enjoyed Winter Soldier? You know what? Robert Redford, amazing in The Sting.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
I really do think it's just the fact that like it's sandwiched between the Godfathers. Like when people think of like mafia 70s movies, we think of the Godfathers.
And I mean, that's because that is about the mafia.
Yeah.
And this is not about the mafia. It's
Right.
about revenge. It's about, but with this perspective, right? But this, I don't know. To me, I think about the writing in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there are moments like the running scenes a little too long.
Okay.
Okay, that's probably one. Like, I don't know. It's probably my biggest gripe. I like the running scenes. They're great. And I made me think like, man, who did it better? Tom Cruise or freaking Redford? Tom Cruise did it, but only because Redford paved the way
for the Toms in the world. Well, I think, I kind of might end this with this question. So you struggled with with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where you felt like some of these scenes were just too long. Like, what are we doing with this musical numbers coming in here, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
For you, how is the pacing in this different, and why is it, in your opinion, probably better than it was in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes you've said this before, like when it comes to editing, it's hard to say like that's like what's a good edit.
Yes.
But it's very easy to say that's a bad edit, right? It's easier to notice a bad edit versus a good edit.
I mean, so here's the thing is that, like, when it comes to editing is so, the perspective of how the film, editing is this weird thing about film.
Mm-hmm.
It is the thing that drives, it's the rhythm behind the film. and yet it's a thing that we don't want to feel, but it's also the thing that, like, if we do feel, like, it could be motivated. Editing is the last rewrite of a film. It is.
I like that. Yeah.
It's the accents to make you feel the hits, and like it's what brings in the full production into the final score. And Butch, like, I think the pacing in this film, there are times when there is a little bit of slow, but I think only because as a first time watch, because of the way we end up watching TV, and especially with one like this where you're like, I don't really know, or you don't have any context, like you don't know how to, like, for us, we're doing a pod, so we're trying to. I have a whole bunch of other stuff. I can't just like it's not like I have if I do a movie night, it's with kids.
Yeah.
And so I'm not doing a movie night necessarily with my wife. We watch movies, but it's not like something we sit down and like have it right now. As much as I would love to do that, right? At the end, like, and so going in this movie and in Butch Cassidy, like, there's not like context. Going into watching them now that I've watched them like once full, I understand what I'm getting into. I know what I can get and what I'm going to expect. But what it comes down to is, I think that there is a maturity in Hill's End in story, slash like his understanding of how to take a script and where what to help massage it. Also, the other aspect is like it just they have different purposes, right? At the core, Butch Cassidy is a very different message. It's about like we talked about, right? Go watch the episode. It's phenomenal. And this one, Butch Cassidy's making a point.
Yeah.
And this one's is crafting a really great story.
Yes, I like that. Yeah. This movie was go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
This movie was edited by William Reynolds. Mm-hmm. So he was nominated 7 times for Best Editing. He won for the Sound of Music. Okay.
I wonder. I was like, I feel like
he won for this one for this thing in '74. He was also nominated the previous year for The Godfather. Okay. Was nominated for Hello Dolly. So it's unique because, I mean, as someone, I'm thinking of Godfather and The Sound of Music. These are very long movies.
Yes.
But never am I ever like, ugh, what's going on? Like, let's go in those movies. I think people do complain that Sound of Music is long, but it's not. It's the beautiful story, right? And it has a lot of detail and craft to it. But looking at them, like, if there's something that Mr. William Reynolds does really well, is really keeping that pace and like you said, doing that final rewrite to engage us and to make sure that the movie has a beautiful flow that's constantly giving us those payoffs, pulling us in and paying off.
Yeah, no, the thing that I feel as we've come to rewatch these films is these classics is that they, filmmakers in this time period, in this era, they would take their time. They kind of came into understanding what film is, what Citizen Kane bringing new understanding of what cinematography could be, right? Butch Cassidy wanting to prove a point that things are going to adapt and change. It's a Wonderful Life, I think, is trying to help millions of Americans have some sort of wonderful Christmas, and us wondering why. That's probably the biggest one. But at the core, with watching this thing, these are movies that are there, and I think we're at this era once again that we're trying to appreciate films for what their goal is.
Yeah,
an escape, a way for us to experience a new world.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same reason why we pick up a big ass book.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same reason we pick up a Brandon Sanderson, 6,000 page book, the last Harry Potter books, whatever you want to throw in your freaking, I don't know, wheel of time, you know what I mean? Anyways, that we're just like then we're at it because there was an article, I don't know, like 3-4 months ago of like, movies are longer than ever. We're getting into 3-hour long movies.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence. I think we're in this, we're in a world where attention is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And hailing, but at the same time, we want to, there's this other movement of people want to say no, we should feel. There should be something there. And I think that what I've coming back and revisiting these classics is I'm just again reminded that the reason why I love film is because they're there to tell stories, and every aspect of a film, from the score to the writing to the cinematography to the directing, the performances, and the editing, is what makes these experiences beautiful. It's the rewatch, and not only that, but the fact that we should be rewatching films if we like them, because there is so much more meaning as we know what's gonna come.
Yeah.
That's something I don't like, because of there's always something new to watch.
Yeah.
That I lost a little bit, and I'm grateful that we're here today, right now, with these classics. I don't know.
That was going to be my question. If you could give us your 1-2 takeaways as we've watched classics, what makes them continue to be classics? What has worked, what hasn't? And I think for me, unless you want to add anything else, but I think for me, these movies that we chose, or that were chosen by our listeners, again, thank you. I see a common thread. One, I think the pacing and editing in these, the ones that were good, because I had issues with, we both had issues with It's a Wonderful Life. If the editing, the pacing of the movie is very crucial, I think, in these classic films. Yeah. And we see that, right? For me, Citizen Kane, from the get-go, we knew what we were getting into, and we kept that story going. With this one, right? There's so many moving parts, but never do I feel like we are stuck or that I want this to hurry it up. Rather, the pacing is there. I think also the other takeaway for me is just be very clear. These movies, I think what makes them so good, be very clear in what you're wanting to achieve.
Yeah.
Right? Citizen Kane, we're telling the story of this broken man who died alone, and what does Rosebud mean? And telling this story from these three perspectives, these three individuals that interacted with him. The issue that I had with The Wonderful Life is this movie a romance movie? Is it about anti-capitalism? Is it about this angel? Where's the angel? What's happening, right? And I think that's where that one missed the mark for me. Here, we know what we're getting into, right? We're going to exact revenge, and we're going to do it in this fun, creative con. I think that's what continues to make these movies classics, is that pacing, that editing, and really just telling your audience, here's the story that you're about to go in with us for the next 2.5 hours. And we're going to have an incredible time. And looking at any other classic movies, we chose movies from 1979 and before. And I think that's kind of where we're at. And as you mentioned, as we in society and as Hollywood transitions to these old, longer length movies, how do we continue to do that? How are these filmmakers justifying, if I can say that word, 3 hours or 2.5 hours of a movie, right?
Yeah.
And I think looking at some of these classics and why they've stood the test of time, picking some of these elements and filmmaking techniques and storytelling techniques, I think is how we can justify it. And we saw that with whatchamacallit, Oppenheimer, right? We often come back to Oppenheimer. It's just edited and cut after cut, and it keeps us engaged, and we know what we're trying to tell with this story, and you're taking me through this 3-hour-long journey, and it works. Whereas others maybe struggled, right? The Napoleons of the world that came out last year, right? Where was that story going, and what are we trying to tell here, and where is that pacing? So this has been fun. I've enjoyed these movies, except for It's a Wonderful Life. I'm just gonna keep.
I actually, I mean, I'm probably gonna rewatch it at some point because I feel like I want to make sure that. That's the thing. I think I'm gonna. I don't know if I can, but if I can, I'm gonna try to rewatch. I'm gonna try to watch the movies twice before, even if I've already watched it, because there's something about having it like really fresh,
yeah,
and having it watch again to be able to pull those points, like to make some of those like connections that you don't make because you haven't watched it in a while or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think one other thing I want to just point out on with all this is you're 100% correct, but I don't necessarily think because you mentioned Oppenheimer, and I was going to bring, but Oppenheimer, I think the reason why the editing works is because Nolan is driving it from 3 different time periods.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, and so he's like peddling a narrative, and he needs. There's just so much there to put into context for us to like. We're colliding, just like with Dunkirk, right?
Yeah.
Different, aspects of that, and that is needed for that. But that at the end of the day, I think the point that you made that is more important that I just want to reemphasize is the fact that like, if you're gonna make a film and you're gonna tell a story that is gonna be longer, be clear with what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that's where a lot of the Marvel stuff is struggling. I think that's where some other films are as well, that like they're trying to make a bigger story sometime. They're trying to tell a story with the bigger arc instead of just telling the story that it needs to be and giving the little extra as you write the next couple or whatever, right? I think we're stuck. I think the biggest struggle that we face now is the Marvelification or the like cinematic, the universification of movies. Mm-hmm. Just like write your movie, tell a good story, be clear, and I think you'll be fine. Maybe not fine, but
But you'll have
people will enjoy the film if they watch.
Where are we at in time? We're good. I just want to share something that James Gunn shared on social media.
Okay.
Do we have time? Yeah, we've got time.
Just go.
So James Gunn was asked a couple weeks ago about like reshoots where like for Superman, right? Yeah. We know he's doing Superman. Like what can we expect? And someone asked him on Threads. He's very active on Threads. He said, where are we with reshoots? And he said, quote, "I've done a total of 1 day of reshoots on my past 2 films combined." Okay. Now it's perfectly normal and okay to do reshoots. It's expected. It's set in the budget. Yeah. In the production budget, and you're going to have reshoots. Now, he claims he's only done 1 day of reshoots in his past 2 films, which would have been Guardians 3 and Guardians 2?
No, I think he had one. Maybe.
Did he have something in between?
It's okay. Keep going.
Anyway, so then someone asked him, what's your method for not doing a lot of reshoots? And he gave 6 bullet points.
Oh, sweet.
Number 1, over-prepare.
Yeah.
2, don't start shooting until I have a finished script my whole team is happy with.
Oh, nice.
3, hire actors and department heads I know I can do their jobs. 4, surround myself with people who will challenge me and not just yes sir everything. Okay. 5, ask myself daily, are there any small imperfections in the script or what we're shooting that might end up feeling like huge imperfections when we cut the film together? And 6, repeat 1 and 2, which was over prepare and don't start shooting until I have a finished script my whole team is happy with. I think that's crucial because, like, going back to the Marvel movies, right? And not just maybe Marvel, but like a lot of movies, right? You're filming, like you're writing it out on the day of, or like you're weeks away from production, and you're still figuring out what this script should be. And I love James Gunn's approach of like, I'm never gonna start shooting until I have a script that everyone is happy with.
That just shows the level of care.
Yeah,
that is someone who this is my belief. Hearing these things and hearing that is that he's a man who understands the full pipeline.
Yes.
Okay. He's a man who, in a filmmaker who has been through the weeds and is put in the work for himself in some capacity, in large scale capacities, and has learned the lesson and understands that fact that, like, if we're gonna go into this, it's gonna require budgets or whatever, that I want to feel confident about what we're gonna shoot. That not only I, but the team feels confident in understanding what we're trying to go accomplish. I've had a couple of opportunities for me to film stuff with people that they're like, hey, I want you to come and film and make a movie with me. And every single time they come to me and they don't have a script, or they're like, we're gonna, it's half the time it's a scary movie. It's scary. Have I done my rant? I think I've done my rant.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah, okay. The other half is just they want to do it, but that's not there. I said, I think like two episodes ago, or was it last episode, that like by the end of next year we will have a short film filmed and produced, and we're gonna shoot it, we're gonna edit it, we're gonna put it out. And when we do that, my goal is not, it may not be the best script or the whatever, but what it will be is one that I feel like from when we get the script done, that we feel that we feel happy with it, and that we know the game plan going to do. And when we prep it for what we need to go film, that we'll say, okay, well, do we have the location locked in? And it might take 6 months for us to like film the scenes that we need, because that's the time frame we need to do it. But it may only be 5 minutes, but it'll be a 5 minutes that's worth it, and that we feel confident. And I think part of it is like, it really does, when you get in a moment when you have a set, you're in on a set with the amount of, the thing is, like, I run and gun a lot, meaning that's not the best term. I'm a guerrilla filmmaker, right? Like when I work with clients, I know that for a client, for corporate stuff, even for social whatever, that the biggest thing is execution time. Yeah. On getting something to like an idea made and then put out. And part of it is because, like, if you spend too much time, the momentum on that and the energy and desire, it fiddles away. It can fade, and it's rough. When it comes to like a production, there's a lot more people involved. Even if it's just, let's say it's, we were to write a script and it's like, we're acting and directing in our own movie, because that's all we have that we can pull in. Okay. That's still a lot of time commitment, not from us, but it's from our family and from us. Right. And that matters. It is, we talked about this on Movie News, that Dwayne made the crew of Red One wait 3 hours.
No, it was 8 hours.
8 hours.
A whole day of shooting, basically.
That is it's insensitive. It's it's like, it's brutal. Yeah. That's so much time. It's not cool. Like the amount of like the resources, the time, and all of that. It's just
allegedly.
Sorry. And I think what is great about this is that, like I said, I think he's a man who understands the full pipeline. Yeah. if you really want to make a great film or whatever, do that extra pre-production at the beginning, or understand that you're gonna have you just have to be okay with the good enough.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a big rant. I'm sorry that you.
We went a little bit on left field there.
Did you have any comment? I mean, I don't know if I.
No, that is perfect, and I think that encapsulates my feelings for these classic movies, is that they know what they're wanting to, the good ones. They know what they're trying to say. I'm gonna keep dogging.
Looking at you, it's Wonderful Life.
I'm gonna keep dogging that. Next week, come back, viewers, because we got some messages on social media, and so we're gonna read some of these of how people feel about the movie and how they feel about about the way we feel about the movie. So
I'm ready.
But yeah, I just know what you want to say. Hook us into it, and whatever preparation and pre-production efforts that need to go into that, take that time to do so. But
man, look, I really appreciate. I'm happy we did this.
We're gonna come back to this segment again. I think in a couple months. So we'll probably put out a list. You know what? We'll make a list out there
of classic films that we haven't seen.
And that people can go and we'll put a Google form.
We'll do something. Well, and look, we're happy you guys stuck around for this episode. Sorry, I went on a couple rants or soapboxes. It's been a while since I've done a soapbox, but
has it? I'm pretty sure you went on one last week. Just kidding.
Is he?
Roll that rewind. I'm just kidding.
But we hope you enjoyed this episode. We'd love it if you could subscribe on YouTube. That's where we do most of our stuff, and we want to engage with you, or wherever you listen to your podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review, or because it can help us get discovered. But more importantly, just chat with us in the comments, because that helps bring up the pod. More people are listening. I think we're going to change our release date to Sunday.
Yeah, I think we've gotten some good engagement, and look, it's Sunday. We're all chilling at home. Yeah. So it's a good time to listen.
Why not?
To start off your week with us rambling.
Us real chumps.
But along with that, we want to hear from you. What do you think of The Sting? What do you love? What do you not like about the movie? You can always connect with us on social at Real Chums, or feel free to email us at your@realchums.com. You can find me on Twitter at Marstrosity, MARZTROSITY.
Me at Rubio_TV. Join us next week as we watch Rebel Ridge. I'm diving into a recent movie that came out
on Netflix.
On Netflix, yep. And there's a lot. I have a lot of thoughts that I want to share with you and talk about it.
People love this movie. I see it on Twitter. People are really raving about it. So it's on my watch list. I know it came out just a couple days ago.
Correct.
So I'm excited to visit it. Rebel Ridge.
Check it out. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Later.